Dear friends, at long last we are seeing the beginnings of the easing of restrictions due to the pandemic. This is really very good news, and I can assure you that you have been greatly missed by us friars. Here at St. Albert's, we are getting ready for the reopening of our chapel for private prayer each day between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. starting on Monday, the 22nd of June. We will keep you posted as things develop. But so that you will have an idea of how things will be here in our chapel when you come, we thought we would put together a video.
Well, hello. We're going to take you around the chapel now in a minute because we want you to see how it is. Now, we're mindful that, well, it's a bit different than it has been, so we don't want you to kind of collapse in shock when you go in. But also, we are mindful that there are many who won't be able to come, and we want you to see the chapel, as it is now, and so because and this is all about prayer, and this is what unites us. So now the first thing, I have a whole list of things to say, so please just bear with me. The most striking difference is there are no benches now in the chapel at all. This was so that we could minimize infection because it's really hard to clean those benches and be sure they're clean. So that's all stored in the garden room, safely and numbered to go back in. And hopefully it won't be too long till it does go back in. We've 16 chairs in there, and they're each 2 meters apart. When you're stationary, you need to be 2 meters from anybody else. However, we don't think that's true when you're moving, because that's not how it is when you're on the paths or street. So we think that you can move around to and from your seat and be a bit closer. That's the only way we can do this with a chapel this size. The whole point of opening is so that people can pray before the Blessed Sacrament. So we need in the chapel to maintain a prayerful atmosphere. Silence is very important insofar as it, obviously there are times when people need to speak, but really to try to be silent both inside the chapel, but also significantly out here, because actually people don't realize, but you do if you're in the chapel and if you're not deaf. Voices carry from over here and from down the path all the time, even if people think they're whispering. I'll hear them, certainly. Now, so you may need to talk to someone in the porch, of course, but just you have to kind of keep that low and to a minimum. There are things you need to bear in mind before you come, and then there are things you need to remember when you're here. Now, the first thing is you need to wear a face covering when you're in the chapel, so you need to bring that with you. Gloves are not to be worn in the chapel because actually gloves can spread the virus. We want you to use hand sanitizer when you come. It's here in the porch. There's nowhere to put bags in there. You have to keep your stuff with you, and the phone, of course, has to be on silent or turned off. And anyone who comes will need to be able to sit quietly on one of the chairs. Access for wheelchair users isn't a problem. Children are very welcome, but they need to be able to sit quietly and by themselves, or else on small children on a parent's lap. Of course, some churches are bigger, and some of the local churches will be able to offer a space where a family can sit together, which is great, but our chapel is too small. Now, when children are here, of course, in this condition, this situation we're in, they can't be running around, and they need to be fairly quiet so that other people can pray. Now, here's a biggie to remember. There is no access to toilets whatsoever, either for the volunteers or for people visiting the chapel to pray. Now, when you arrive, the volunteer will be in the porch. I think we'll go inside. I have a cameraman here, Now, the volunteer is here and will be sitting there in the porch. Now, he mightn't be there when you arrive at the door because he might be cleaning a seat, or she. But please wait until he or she invites you in. And we need you to maintain social distancing as you wait, because other people may arrive with you, or there may be people leaving and so on. So that's why out there on the path there are these mats, which are 2 meters apart. That's important. The door will probably be open already. We don't really want people to be touching it. The first thing to do is use the hand sanitizer. Now, as you look here, you might look around there and see, see the seats are all numbered. Now, the volunteer will tell you to sit in a particular seat. Now, that's not because the volunteer is bossy. That's because we need to clean that seat after you've used it. So that's what the numbering is about, to keep track of that. Now, you come into the chapel then, you follow these arrows. There's an arrow here in the floor. So you come in, and then you don't go beyond this line towards Our Lady, but you turn up and enter along the main aisle, and Father John is sitting there, and you see I'm walking past, trying to keep a bit of distance. But the thing is, he's sitting there, and that's what you'll find when you come. There'll be somebody there. Now, if you're going to sit, say I've been told to sit in seat 4 over there. Well, I don't walk across here. I go up to maintain this flow of movement, and I sit there in 4. Right. Now, when I come, I would want to reverence the Blessed Sacrament by genuflecting. If you're a person who will find it difficult to get up, please don't genuflect, just bow. Remember, if you're stuck or you're finding it difficult to get up, these seats are not a great support. They're not fixed. But also, the volunteer, it's not fair really to ask the volunteer to have to assist you. He can't, or she can't, and we can't either, because of the situation with the pandemic. The last thing we want is somebody to catch COVID here. Now, the next thing is, so I'm going to, I've genuflected already, so I'm going to sit down here in this seat. Now, how long would I stay? Well, if there's only a couple of people using the chapel, you could stay for 2 hours. But if there is a flow of people, we'd say about 20 minutes. So that's, and if there's people, you might be aware there might be people waiting outside to come in. Now, but, there are 16 seats. I doubt if we would have, at any one time, 16 people. But we might have. We don't know. It's only 2 hours in the day. You'll be aware that other churches around will be open at different hours. Now, if you want to kneel, that's fine, but just do it at the seat. Don't compromise the social distance, the 2 meter distance. Now, when you're ready to leave, then you're here, and you go and you follow the arrows out along the side aisles on either side. You see, there's both sides of these arrows. We try to minimise the use of arrows, not have them too intrusive. But you come here, and of course you find yourself then back here in the porch at the sanitizer, which you use again before you leave. When you go out then, there may be people waiting to come in, so try to maintain the distance, but also don't stop. You need to move out and down out to the garden gate, because we can't have people kind of interacting here in the path for several reasons, but the main one being to maintain silence inside in the chapel. So you're always, remember, in this garden, you're always within earshot. Now, all of that I know sounds really restrictive, but it's been thought out carefully to minimize the risk of infection, to keep people safe, and to make this possible. It will be such a joy for us to see that garden gate open again. Thanks.